So on behalf of the society, I take this opportunity to welcome all our participants. This is a, a very successful series, as somebody pointed out. We are into our 23rd talk. And I would like to thank all the members who are participating in these talks. So really a big thank you to all of you. And I'm sure all of you will enjoy today's session on Howrah Station. Many of us
your voice is gone.
Have very fond memories and associations with Howrah. And I'll request now JL to kindly introduce the speaker, and then we go ahead.
Thank you, Venu. It's a pleasure to host the 23rd talk of the Rail Enthusiast Society. When we started this series, I had not expected it to go beyond.
Can you hear me?
Talks. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We can hear you, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay. Anyway, it is my pleasure today to introduce Souroshankha Maji. I hope I have pronounced your name correctly because I don't have a Bengali pronunciation.
Yeah.
Anyway, he is normally referred to as Soro among
Yeah,
friends.
I can.
So that is the best way to refer to him, Soro.
Yes.
Soro probably knows more about Calcutta and its environs when it comes to the history and heritage of the railway in that area, in that part of the world. He came into rail heritage and history quite recently, only in 2010 to 11. But the way he has worked in the last decade, today he's an absolute authority on what has happened in the railways in Calcutta and the areas around it. He has done a master's in English and done advertising and PR. But today I think his first love is the railways.
Yes.
He says that as a child, his enthusiasm for the railways started because he used to eat his food only when his mother showed him trains from their house in suburban Calcutta. Anyway, I will not remain between him and Howrah station. So over to you, Saurav. Would you like to share a screen?
Today we are going to look at Howrah station something that started way back in the 1840s and still continuing and expanding. But before we start off, I'd really want to talk about something that we all think is correct. This is what I call as the S-cube syndrome, which is what I term as the Sahib Sindh Sultan syndrome. We all know that the first commercial run was actually hauled by one single loco, but then somehow this myth started that there were 3 locos which pulled the first train. Similar myths existed in other parts of the country too. One of them actually started with the very first railway company in Eastern India. And when we first think about this company, the company which registered for the construction of railways in India for the first time, always think about these two, Great Indian Peninsula Railway and East Indian Railway. However, in reality, none of these were the first to be registered as a company to construct railways in India. The first one was the Great Western of Bengal Railway Company. It was initially called as the Calcutta and the Ganges Great Junction Railway Company and was registered in April 1845, whereas East Indian Railway was registered as a company in May 1845 and GIPR in July 1845. However, we'll have to remember one thing over here. Great Western of Bengal Railway never got to run a single train. It was merged with East Indian Railway and then they proceeded further. But this actually entails an initial rivalry. It's a long story, and while talking about Howrah station, if we go into the detail of this rivalry, it will take too long a time. So I've kind of just gave a brief overview of the whole scenario. It was obviously between the Great Western of Bengal Railway Company and the East Indian Railway Company. The Great Western of Bengal Railway Company was formed by Prince Dwarkanath Tagore, the grandfather of Rabindranath Tagore, and obviously Ronald MacDonald Stevenson was heading the East Indian Railway Company. Prince Dwarkanath Tagore formed a company way back in 1834, and he actually owned a lot of collieries around the Raniganj, present-day Raniganj area. Their old dilapidated main office of their company, which was called the Car Tagore and Company, still stands over there at a place called Dhannakuria, next to the river Damodar. However, because of a failure of a Union Bank in 1845 and his sudden demise in 1846, the Great Western of Bengal Railway momentum was lost, and East Indian Railway took over everything from them and then proceeded further to be the first railway company to run trains in the eastern part of the company, obviously with several issues that we're going to talk about right now. But before that, obviously, we know that 1853, the first train started running from, to Thane under the GIPR banner. The first issues that East Indian Railway Company faced was, of course, with GWBR. But then there were two major issues. One was, as depicted in this picture partially, this is actually from a town where I was born, some 130 plus years later.
So, Saurav, we can see only the first slide, a brief chronicle of Howrah. It hasn't gone ahead.
Is it changing now? Can you see it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. It's full screen.
Yeah.
Well, on my end, it's still the same as it was to me. But anyway, let's go to the next slide. Yeah. I've gone through the Mythbuster. Yes, the first two companies that we think were the first registered companies, but they are actually not.
Okay.
And then next one, we talk about Great Western of Bengal Railway and the rivalry in the next slide. The registration chronology, April, May, and July of the same year, just one and a half month apart from each other.
Right.
Then the rivalry. Next slide, please. Yes, I've gone through this. Dwarkanath Tagore versus Ronald MacDonald Stevenson, his untimely demise, and then the issues. Yeah, so we are here after the issues. The first issue, as seen in this picture, was possibly the first legal battle between a railway company and individuals. Serampur and the next station, Shaurafuli, and the next station, Baidyabati. These three areas are already pretty developed back in 1850s. Densely populated at parts where the railway was supposed to go. And the first legal battles were actually fought over here with land issues between a railway company and individuals. Next slide, please. Then the railway planned right-of-way hit the ex-French town of Jamnagar. This is where I live these days. So obviously in Europe back then, the French and the Britishers were fighting and they were not too happy with the railway line going through their territory. So because of that, a delay ensued and a straight right-of-way became a curved one around Chandanagar. So that the railway track stays on the British territory. This particular picture taken much later in 1905. And if you see on the right, the right-hand side track is the Howrah-bound track, and the left-hand side where the two people and the French policeman is, or rather, I think the British policeman is standing, is the Bandel-Bardwan Delhi-bound track. Now, this station is just 50 meters away from the canal which actually bordered the French town of Chandanagar. And this is the end of the curve towards the north. after which the track again becomes straight. If you look at the layout of the tracks from Howrah, after Howrah it takes a 90-degree curve towards right, and then a little curve before Bali, 9 kilometers away north of Howrah. But from Bali to Sirampur, the track is dead straight. Around Sharafuli, where the first issues, legal issues were fought, the track again takes a left curve, then again a right curve, then again becomes straight. So the whole idea of constructing the railways is first to lay the tracks or the route as straight as possible, because it gives you more speed and all the other advantages. But because of these legal issues, there are 3 major curves at kilometer 20 to 25, and then again around kilometer 31 to 33, 31 to 33 being the Chandanagar one. Next. This brings us to the locomotives. This is one of the drawings of the earliest locomotives built in 1852 for the East Indian Railway. And with these locomotives, we come to another issue. Next one, please. This is another myth buster. Next. The myth is the first year locomotive veered off track and went off to Australia. Now, I have been looking for this information or a credible information supporting this particular fact for a long, long time. I haven't found any. The closest to that was, next one. Click once again. Yes, that part. This is from Morning Herald of 29 July 1854. The closest to the issues with locomotives that I have come across from various newspapers in British newspaper archives, or at the Statesman archives over here, or any other archives anywhere in the world, is that the East Indian Railway had huge issues putting on the locomotive from the riverbed to the station area, and it was stuck in the mud for a long time. Obviously, if the locomotives had been there around May, June, July, or even in April when we have the nor'wester, it's common that the riverside will be extremely muddy, and it's very normal that the locomotives, that heavier locomotives, obviously not compared to what we have these days, but locomotives like that will get stuck. So this is the closest that I have found. However, next line, and click again, please. I would still say it's inconclusive, because I really need to look further. I have gone through the ship records. The ship which was supposed to bring that locomotive is called Kedgiri or Kedigri. Now, I have gone through ship records, not all obviously, but some of the ship records actually showed Kedigri to be coming to Calcutta around 1858, which is much later than the first railway run from Howrah to Hooghly. Now, that doesn't match up. That doesn't add up at all. And I think I still need to look further to actually come to a conclusion and say, well, this is another myth. But, well, for the time being, it's still inconclusive. Next, please. We're coming to the details. The first trial happened in 28 June. The first commercial run between Howrah and Hooghly, which was a distance of 23.25 miles or about 38 kilometers, happened on 15th August. Nothing to do with 15th August as we celebrate these days, but it's just a coincidence. The first run had 3 first class, 2 second class, 3 flatbed trucks as third class, and a Gertz brake van. 3,000 plus applications were received for the inaugural run, and fare ranged from 7 annas in third class to rupees 3 in first class. Incidentally, 15th August 1854 is also the day when the first trial for Howrah to Pandua happened. Now, the tracks are already ready till Pandua. This is another aspect that I really need to look into, that why wasn't it open? Probably some station structure or something were still being built, but I haven't got any record of that. But 15th August 1854, first commercial run from Howrah to Hooghly, and first trial run from Hooghly to Pandua. Journey to Hooghly took about 90 minutes. It takes about 50 minutes these days in an EMU. Next slide. This brings us to Howrah station. Next. The early days around Howrah station were just like any other riverbank. But later on, it was owned by the Dominican sect of a group of Portuguese missionaries. And they set up an orphanage over there. There's a small myth attached to this one also. A lot of people say that the Howrah station is built on top of the orphanage, but the orphanage actually moved away from that site in 1815, 39 years before Howrah station actually came into being. And I will come to that this part, that it had a modest terminal buildings in 1854 itself, although people keep saying that it has a tin shed terminal and nothing else at the beginning. Next. This is a map which shows the exact location of Howrah station. Some cotton screws, some other establishment. The place was called Goladanga. One of the reasons for calling this as Goladanga is probably they had, there was an army practicing ground and they used to keep their ammunition and everything over there. But this is not confirmed, but this could be one of the reasons. Next. We'll come to this Mythbuster, which is, next please, which is what I was talking about. Howrah had no proper terminal building till early 20th century. Many people think that the present day old complex was the first station building that Howrah actually had, and Howrah never had anything else before that. But that's not true, and we'll see why. Next. It had a building with tall round columns, which is quite similar to other heritage structures of Calcutta of that era. It had one single platform initially. The platform was, of course, inadequate, and train coaches almost always used to stand beyond the platform limit. The building became redundant when the present-day old terminus was built, and the building was finally demolished partially and modified from 1911 onwards. Next, please. So, this picture actually shows the Howrah station building, the one on the right, in the building in front of which the horse coaches are standing. That building is what is the original Howrah station building, built in 1854, demolished and modified from 1911 onwards. But the building on the left, which used to be part of the administrative, I would rather say the administrative part of the Howrah station, still stands, and we'll see in the next slide what it is. The building on the left is the present-day DRM building. On the right, what you see is the modified and partly demolished old station building. I again search a lot. Obviously, haven't seen all the documents, and I still haven't got any confirmation whether it was completely demolished and this was rebuilt in that place, or was it demolished towards the front and then bases were used for this new extension of the TRM building that stands over there at present. This is right next to the old complex of what we know today. Right hand side, you see the southern part of the old complex of Howrah station, and the DRM building stands between the old and the new complex. Next slide, please. This brings us to the 0 mile. The 0 mile from where every calculation started from East Indian Railways. Next, we'd look at the details of the 0 mile. It was said to have been located near the Howrah control. This is obviously, like I said, the reference point from which gradual land acquisition was undertaken. It was engraved on a bronze plate and embedded on the wall of the DRM's office. This was the very first milestone set up by the East Indian Railways. Now, sadly, the original 0-mile plaque is lost. Nobody knows how or why, probably during some modification of the DRM building or for some other reason, but the original one is lost, and a replica has been kept at the DRM's office right now. Next one. Well, this myth is true. Howrah never had a ticket counter at the beginning. Since Howrah was just a railway terminal and the main and the major city was on the other side of the river in Calcutta, the ticket counter was on the other side. People used to buy tickets on the other side, cross the river in a ferry, come to Howrah station, board a train, and then go off to wherever they want to go. And we see how the ferry point used to see on the Howrah end in the next slide. This is a picture from 1866, obviously from the British Library, as you can see. And this one shows the ferry point on the Howrah side. Howrah station is on the right-hand side of the picture. And the structure that you see over there is where the Railway Museum at present stands. Next one, please. Obviously, Howrah station, like any other station in India, had kind of developed gradually. Like I said earlier, it had just one platform to begin with. Another platform was added in 1865. Obviously, doubling was started from 1859 itself. A third platform was again added in 1895. The Vienna route, the Bengal-Nagpur Railway, which till then was traveling via Kharagpur, Asansol, or Sini, Asansol, and then used to come towards Calcutta, reached Howrah on 14 December 1900 through a direct route. Next. This is a map from the Calcutta Port Trust, I think, which shows something interesting. Apart from if you look at the floating stage and look a little left towards it, you'll see arrival platform, and then you see departure platform. There were two separate platforms. The structure right next to that is the DRM building. But I'm not talking about all those. I'm talking about something towards the bottom of the picture. There was an East Indian Railway cargo boat dock. It was a transshipment point, since the riverine traffic was the major traffic back then, and railway was still developing slowly. There was a big transshipment point over there, south of the station, with cargo boat docks and everything, crane sheds on both sides to load and unload goods. Next slide, please. Obviously, like I said, 14 December 1900, the first train that arrived from Vienna side to Howrah. And due to the increase in traffic, next, a new terminal building of 1905 came into being. Obviously, this building was under planning for a long time, since 1902, I think. But finally, the first stages of the building became operational in December 1905. This one shows a cross-section of the building design, and we'll come to the details later on. This one is again another, sorry, the next one. Yeah, this is again another drawing of the building. And this one, I have mentioned it as 1907, but certain old maps actually puzzles me a lot. I mean, the map actually had a, copyright from 1907, but with messages. Is there an issue? Sorry, can you hear me?
No, go ahead.
Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah.
So, so this is one of the maps which said copyright 1907, but then there were messages at the bottom of the map saying incorporating changes between 1907 and 9 and 10, I think. So over here, this one shows the position of the Howrah old station as well as the Howrah new station. The old station is obviously next to the DRM building, which doesn't exist right now. And the Howrah new station is the present day old complex. Now, if you look at the structure of the Howrah new station, it's from a stage when the Howrah station was still developing. I'll come to that details later on, but Howrah station has a cab road in between. There were several actually, but nowadays it's just one in the old complex. And both sides of the cab roads were developed separately. The one towards the top or the north was called the north wing, and the south of the cab road was called the south wing. Now, this map shows the north wing to be completed, but partial development in the south wing. So I'm assuming this is obviously something from around 1909 and 10, because the south wing was completed around 1911 and 12. Next one, please. That brings us to the architect, Halse Ricardo. Coincidentally born in 1854, the year the first train ran out of Howrah. He was an architect, designer, as well as a journalist. He educated from Rugby School and was trained by John Middleton in Cheltenham and Bassel Champneys in London. He passed away in 1928. Obviously, by then, Howrah was a bustling station. Next. Ricardo chose the Romanesque style for the new terminal. New terminal, when I say new terminal over here, is basically the old complex of what you know today. We have a new terminal, the newer terminal nowadays. So this new terminal of 1905 consisted of brick-built arches, articulated windows, and they were 8 square towers on front elevation from the east. It became functional from December 1914. I think 6 December was the date on record, although the modifications and additional constructions went on till 1911. A clock. Now, this is not the clock, the famous Boro Ghori as they call in Bengali, inside the station. This is a clock which was outside. It was installed on the northeastern tower for the people from the other side, the Calcutta side of the river, to see. And we'll look at the clock in the next slide. Now, if you look closely, this is the old pontoon bridge, which came into being in 1874. And you can see the north block, northernmost tower on the top left-hand corner of the picture. And you can see the white roundel over there. That's the clock that we are talking about over here. There's an interesting feature in this picture also. If you look towards the right skyline, you will see something written over there. Jessup and Company actually had an establishment where the present day Howrah Bridge is standing. And that one says Jessup and Company Engineers. Next slide, please. Well, obviously it was broken up. The whole structure was broken up in parts, and the brick tower housing the staircases with tile roof actually gave a sense of integrity. These square towers of the new terminal building of 1905 were punctuated by narrow recessed windows in complete contrast to the other wide openings that we have in between. Stones from Jharia was replaced by Mirzapur stones, as the former were found to be too coarse to give a fine enough surface. This is on official record, but we'll come to that stone, issues with the stones in a slide later on. Next one, please. This is again, another diagram of the Howrah station building. Eastern Railway, Heritage Gallery, Fairley Place, they have beautiful drawings, about 50 plus, showing every single bit of the station structure. It was accidentally found, at the State Archives, I think, around 2003, when Eastern Railway was bringing out a new book on Howrah station, or I think Eastern Railway, to commemorate the 150th year. But those drawings are exquisite, extremely detailed, and you will have every single bit of the station described over there. Next one, please. The new station building had something interesting. It was not built by East Indian Railway alone. It was a joint terminal built both by BNR and EIR. And interestingly, both BNR and EIR actually had, a surcharge on a very nominal surcharge on the tickets sold by them. They also did the same thing for the present-day Howrah Bridge. Not only Eastern Railway, Calcutta Corporation, Howrah Municipal Corporation, East Indian Railway, and Bengal Nagpur Railway, they all charge a very nominal fare, much like I think the Navi Mumbai construction. Apurva might be able to correct me. There was a small surcharge on top of the ticket fares initially for tickets from tickets to Navi Mumbai via the Trans-Harbour line. So the construction of this new building of 1905 started in 1901, not 1902, sorry, and continued till 1911. Although, like I've said, it was up and running from 6 December 1905. The initial plan was, of course, 6 platforms, which is the present-day platform 3 to 8. This is, I'm talking about the north wing. Again, that's what I've said, which was completed on 31st October 1906, and from December it was fully functional. Next, please. Around 1909, the south wing was made functional with 3 platforms, 7, 8, 9, which is present day 9, 10, and 11. The south wing work finally concluded in June 1910. Of course, additional platforms were added. Right now, we have platform number 12, 13, 14, and 15. 15 being the newest, and not exactly a longish platform like the rest, or rather, I would say rather not like platform 8 to 14. It's a smaller platform, 15 coach capacity, and caters mainly to the EMUs of Southeastern Railway. Next slide. Now, this is interesting. If you look at the pictures or diagrams of Howrah station, you will always see that the northern tower, which has that clock outside, has this small structure which doesn't match with the Romanesque style of the rest of the old complex. Now, why is it there? What was it doing there? Why is it attached to the station building? We'll see why it was there. Next slide, please. The Chandmari block, as we know it, that particular block is called Chandmari block, is the northeast portion of the old complex of Howrah station, and it was already progressing to be the new terminal in the early 1900s. It was proposed to house the parcel office, staff quarters, and the assistant station master's office. It was already sanctioned at an estimated cost of 1.09 lakhs. And the amount was later appropriated for the construction of the new terminal, which is the new terminal of 1905, the present day old complex. Next. The joint passenger terminal of 1905 was constructed at an estimated cost of 46,62,695 rupees, out of which 4,36,614 was spent solely for EIR, 52,591 for BNR, and joint use was for 41,72,490 rupees. Next. This is what I was talking about. Now, for the construction of the terminal around 1905, initially stones from the western part of the country, the Porbandar stone was contemplated. But then they changed their decision and decided that stones from Chharia will be used. But again, they were not giving a smooth finish. So they again shifted and then decided that the Mirzapur stones were the best one for the construction of this new terminal in 1905. Next one. So this brings us to the era which saw huge turmoil. I mean, all over India, all over the world partially. Obviously, Howrah station was part of it. So 1938 to 45, you have the Second World War. 1943, in the middle of the World War, the Howrah Bridge, the present-day Howrah Bridge was open. You will not find any report in any newspaper because reports were blacked out. so that nobody could get to know that a huge bridge has come into being and Japanese could attack them. There were Japanese bombing in Calcutta, but probably they haven't had information about Howrah Bridge, and so it was never damaged. 1947, before 1947 and after 1947 saw another turmoil because of the partition. 52 to 55 was important because 52 to 55 is a time when both BNR and EIR zones were clubbed together, and Eastern Railway was running everything. Next slide, please. Well, I don't know if this video will play, but check. This is a video from October. You have to click. It will not play. All right, that's the issue. Oops, I've lost the screen.
Can you see the full
Yeah,
presentation?
it's full screen now. Now, if you can just roll down, and it should be fine. Minus the videos, of course. Go down, go down. We have all covered these, all done. Yes, next, next, next. Yes. So this brings, now the previous one, please. The previous one, please. Yes. So this brings us to the 1950s. Of course, there was a beautiful video of the whole overview of the Howrah station without the electrification and everything, which I'll send it to WhatsApp. That's the only option now. Can't be played over here. But this brings us to 1957. 1952 onwards, there were talks about electrification, which was a long pending issue from 1911 and 12. Although Howrah was not supposed to get the first electrified section, it was the Shialdah, the EBR section, because it was catering directly to Calcutta. The initial plans were all about electrification of the Shialdah suburban. But after independence, things changed, and then Howrah got its first EMU delivered on 26 November 1957. This is a picture at Khidipur Docks, Calcutta Port, where the first EMU coaches were being lowered. You can see LHP written on it because these are man-made EMUs from Germany, and LHP supplied the wheel structure and the bogies and everything. The EMU service was inaugurated on 14 December 1957 in a grand function at Howrah station. First services ran between Howrah and Souroshankha. Souroshankha again is the place where the first legal issues were fought. Next one, please. However, before the EMUs were inaugurated on 14 December, the first electric service started from 1st December 1957. This is a Souroshankha special. I'm not sorry, the regular Souroshankha local of 1600 something hours, some 4-5 p.m. or something as per the timetable back then. So I was asking Ramarao sir about when the platform 1 and 2 were done. This is actually departing from platform 1. You can see the Buckland Bridge, the old Buckland Bridge approach right next to it. Obviously, this is one of those English Electric built locos back then under 3000 volt DC catenary. Next one, please. This picture, again, this is from actually a screenshot from an old video, Tramway Exotica by online video production. And they have beautiful videos of tramways from Ceylon, Pakistan, and India. And they also covered a bit of narrow gauge around Calcutta and the railways in Howrah. Now, this one shows something really interesting. This is from sometime around, between 1959 and 1967. On the right-hand side, you can see a pure ACMU. On the left-hand side, it's one of the AC/DC EMU. The way you could recognize them is the shush on, in between the two windshield, which actually denoted its AC/DC. On the right-hand side, this is a pure ACMU from ICF. The left hand, I still can't figure out what make it is. There were 3 different suppliers from European countries: MAN LHB, SIG, and AEI. Of course, in 1959, the first EMUs were made in India by JSHOP before ICF. That's another myth, but not part of this presentation. They delivered the first EMU coaches to Eastern Railway in 1959. All of those were AC/DC. However, some of the SIGs and the MANs were also converted before being sent off to Central and Western Railway. But I would presume that this would be one of the earlier GSHOP ones, but cannot be sure. Anyway, next slide, please. Of course, 1967 is when the conversion from 3000 volt DC to 25 kV AC was completed. 1967, incidentally, is also the year in which the whole yard in Howrah was remodeled and became more or less what it is today. And the new RRI came into being. Which brings us to 1969, the first Rajdhani. Again, a picture by one of the IRCN, Jishnoda. This is a picture from 1980s, I think, but I have kept it because it shows how the Rajdhani used to run back then. ICF coaches in old livery with WTM4 locos, Mughal Sarai based. Next slide, please. 1975, a huge network of subways in and around Howrah station inaugurated, which still caters to all the crowd with ease. It was inaugurated on 31st January 1975. It actually replaced an entry-exit point to the north of the station, which always is to block traffics outside. Next one, please. The new complex actually came into being because there was increased number of traffic, and it was first proposed in the 1980s. It also housed a rail yatri Nivas, and although it was planned as a suburban terminal, it is primarily used for express trains of ACR. Some suburban EMU services still terminate and originate from there. Next, please. This is a picture of, well, I don't know the year actually because it was never mentioned, but sometime after 1925, because I can see motor buses. So this picture will zoom in a bit in the next slide, and we'll see where the new complexes come into being. Next one, please. We'll zoom in over there. And the building that you see over there is the DRM building, or the old administrative building of the first Howrah terminal. Now, after that, you'll see what you're seeing on the left is go down and goods sheds. That's what the new complex has come up. But we'll see in a better way in the next slide. From air. This was published in the Railway Gazette of 25th November 1936, and the photo was taken by the Indian Air Survey and Transport Limited. This one shows the Chandmari block, then the new or the new complex of 1905, then the DRM building, and then an array of goods sheds, which was later replaced partially for the new complex. This picture also towards the right shows the old Parkland Bridge. And if you look towards the platform straight ahead from Chandmari block, you will see the other cab road, which I'm going to talk about in a while, and the foot overbridge, which used to exist between the then platform 1 and platform 6, which has now been abolished long back. Next one, please. The foundation stone for the new complex was laid on 27th October 1984. And the foundation stone for Rail Yatri Nivas, which is attached to that, was laid on 7 November 87. However, the Rail Yatri Nivas was inaugurated much before the terminal actually came into being. And the new complex with 4 platforms, 18, 19, 20, and 21, was finally inaugurated on 25th January 1992. 3 additional platforms were later added, 17, 22, and 23 in the last 10, 15 years. Next one, please. Now look at the icons within a station. Being a historic station, the Howrah has quite a bit of an icon inside it, and some of them are pretty interesting. And we'll just look at some of the prominent ones. Next. The benchmark is obviously where the leveling and every calculation starts for a structure. Thanks to Sanjay sir, who actually guided me to its exact location. And I used to think it was another myth till about 3 months ago. Sanjay sir told me its exact location. I found it to be there. This is actually situated at a place where nobody can access easily. And it's kind of, there are other structures right next to it, which kind of blocks it totally. Next to the subway between the north and south wing. Sorry, next slide, please. Then comes the clock, which we call in Bengali as Borogori, which literally means the big clock. Not the clock that I was talking about outside the station, but it's inside the station. It's on the eastern wall of the station next to the station manager's office. It was made in England by Gents and was installed in 1926. It has dials measuring 45 inches in diameter with an 18-inch long hour and a 24-inch minutes hand. Next one. That is the picture of the clock. And right underneath it is something that we'll discuss about right now. Next one. The cab roads, obviously, Howrah is currently the only station in India to have multiple cab roads within the station. The old complex had a cab road, which was initially between platform 6 and 7, because platform number 1 and 2 of present day were added later on. And the 1992 built new complex has another cab road. Next one, please. This is a diagram, track diagram from 1930s, which is showing the cab road between platform number 6 and 7. Now, obviously, now the cab road has become, part of platform 8 and 9. The reason being, there was another cab road next to platform number 1, which was abolished to make way for 2 new platforms during the electrification. Naturally, the platform numbers changed, and 2 more were added up to all the numbers in the old complex. Next one. This one was showing from a time when, AC buses to New Calcutta and the airport used to start from the cab road. They don't anymore. Next. The H. Wheeler's bookstall. It was Tinkari Banerjee who spread the network, and the stall at Howrah station was built in 1905. Is entirely made of Barmatic and has no hinge, nut, or bolt, and was designed in England. Next one. This is the stall. It has got an heritage tag a few years back from the railways. Next slide, please. And this is the one that I was talking about under the Borogori, or the clock inside the station. This is one of the memorial that we have over there. Pretty rare for a big station like this. Of course, this one almost doesn't mention, name of any Indians over here, except some who died in the East Africa and in Mesopotamia. Of course, there are bigger plaques and everything in Asansol, the Turan Institute, which mentions all the other soldiers and other people from India. Next one. The old booking office. This one somehow survived, with the rest of the booking office, old wooden booking office, being completely refurbished or modified. And this one is in the old complex. And recently, because of a demolition on the other side of this booking office, another old one which was demolished, they have again started selling tickets from this booking office. Earlier, it used to use as a baggage counter. But you see the small drilled windows over here. These are now being used as a booking office. So you can actually literally still buy tickets from these counters. Next one. There are a lot of things around Howrah which are gone forever. One of the things is, of course, next slide, the steam loco shed. This is Mike Tisdale's photo from 1980s. Showing the Howrah Burdwan main and cord line in the background and 2 steam locos standing. This is where the electric and the diesel loco shed came up later on. Next. The Buckland Bridge. This is actually a video screenshot, again from Film Division of India. If you look closely, you can actually see a single coach Howrah tram running on top of the bridge. Next. The old FOB, the foot overbridge that I was talking about, it was lost. It was decommissioned long back, but still in platform 4 and 5 and platform 6 and 7, you could see the remnants of the old foot overbridge that was running between the then platform 1 and 6. It's pretty strange for a terminal, buffered terminal, to have a foot overbridge at the other end. But well, Howrah had that. Next one. That brings us to the bridges around Howrah station. Of course, there are 2 famous bridges and 2 other bridges to talk about. Next slide. This is again a video of the old pontoon bridge, which unfortunately will not play. So, which was the pontoon bridge opened in 1874, and this is a beautiful video from 1906 showing the Howrah station and the pontoon bridge back then. Next one, but this will not play. Sorry about that. The Buckland Bridge picture that you saw, it actually came up in 1905 and 6 when the Howrah station, the old complex, was being built. Next one. The Chandmali Bridge right outside Howrah. This is a picture from 1932 when the Chandmali Bridge was being built. Right now, right next to it, a huge cable-stayed bridge is coming up, which is going to replace this one. So in about 90 years, 90 or 95 years time, it will be gone. Next one. Of course, the famous Howrah Bridge. I've given a different perspective of Howrah Bridge. People always take the side view, but this is something that people generally don't see or don't post or don't share. It just shows the complexity, of the bridge. It's such a marvelous structure. 1943 is when it was opened, 3rd February. Next one. This is a beautiful picture from Peter Fuzz Jordan. Thanks to Mr. Whittle and David Charlesworth, I got this picture. This one is from 1979, actually. The Bankim Setu was inaugurated in 1981. If you look on top of the EMU, you could see the construction of the Bankim Setu ongoing. And at a distance, right below that, is the old Buckland Bridge. It was inaugurated on 24th January 1981, the Bankim Setu, which replaced the Buckland Bridge. Next one. Now, there are other Howrah stations around what we know as Howrah Station. Now, broad gauge was always constant, but there was narrow gauge stations right next to the Howrah Station or in close vicinity. And we'll look at that now. Next. Martin's Railway, as we know it, was run by T.M. Martin Company. There was a 2-foot narrow gauge suburban network and served the interiors of Howrah district. And they had extremely intensive services with 8-9 trains terminating and originating in a single line section from their Howrah station, which actually changed their terminal. The position of the terminal changed several times. The route gradually opened from 1897 and completely closed down in 1971. Next slide, please. One click. This one shows their first terminal, Telkal Ghat station. The railway tracks that you see right next to it is where the railway museum these days stand. The Telkal Ghat station was for a very short period was shifted to Howrah Maidan station. Although Telkal Ghat station was still being used for transshipment of goods. Then it shifted to, please, a station called Kadamtala Junction, which is towards the left, but that's away from the Howrah station, so we'll not talk about that. Next one is for the final 23 years, from 1948 till 1971, they had their terminal right next to Chandmali Bridge at a point where the arrow stands. But before that, since we are looking at this map, we'll look at something else which was very important to East Indian Railway back in the days, which is Oh, sorry, go back. That didn't work. It was working fine in my. If you look, so let me explain. If you look towards the north of Howrah station, above the bridge, you'll see Saltgola Ghats. And those Saltgola Ghats is was the salt go downs, and it still exists, dilapidated, and was very busy back in the days. So that is something very unique right next to a very big terminal. Next one. This is again a picture from DHRS archive taken by John Clements. This one shows the last terminal, a train leaving from the last Howrah Maidan terminal on the 2-foot narrow gauge route right next to the Chandmali Bridge. Next one. This one is a beautiful picture by Laurie Marshall. When we say narrow gauge and broad gauge actually existed side by side in Howrah, this picture portrays exactly that. This is the ramp right next to the Southeastern Railway lines, which has an ER steam loco going up, and right next to it at a lower level where the Martin's loco shed of Howrah station. There is loco number 11, which is standing right next to a broad gauge loco. Next one. Again, this is a beautiful video, but unfortunately, which will not play. This one shows the arrival and departure of trains and passengers at the last Howrah Maidan station next to Chandbani Bridge. Next one. This brings us to the future Howrah station, which is India's deepest metro station. Coming up 30 meters below the surface, it has 5 lakh square feet area spread across several floors, 45-meter D-wall depth, 4 underground levels. Next one, please. And it's coming up between old and the new complex. This diagram shows its actual location. On the north of it is where the old complex stands. On the south of it is where the new complex and the railway museum stands. And the route starts from Howrah Maidan, takes a curve under the track, and then crosses the river to go into Calcutta, and then terminating at Salt Lake Sector 5. Next one. On the right-hand side of the picture, you see a structure which is part of the old arrival platform of Howrah Station building. This structure is completely demolished now. Again, which means on the right-hand side, it was the old complex. Left-hand side, it is the new complex. Beyond these storehouses. This is a picture from 2014 when the work for the East-West Metro's Howrah Station was just started. I mean, they just commenced few days after the work commenced. So a single lone crane standing, nothing else. Next. The same place, unfortunately, the overbridge is being decommissioned, so I can't take photos from top, give you a top view of that. But this is the same storehouses on the left, and this is what it is right now. New station concourse for the East-West Metro standing at the same place. Next one. This is underneath, showing the ongoing work with the East-West Metro station at Howrah. Both Howrah, Shialda, and Esplanade, all 3 stations will have 4 platforms each. Initially for 6 coach trains, but the platform lengths are made for 8 coach metro rakes. Next one, please. Now we've talked about Howrah station at length with a lot of technical glitches, of course, but let's look at how the area changed from 1860s to 2020s in the last 150 years. Apurva, click. This is what it used to be back in the 1860s or 1870s. Next. We are overlapping it thanks to David Ramsey online mapping service. They actually do these things really nicely. So next. We are gradually coming back to the present. Next. And here we are. What it is at present. Of course, this is from satellite picture. I wanted a clear satellite picture from, so this is from 2020. So you can't see the station structure of the Howrah Metro in between the old and the new complex. But since I was showing 1860 to 2020, I think it works out fine. And I think that's about it. If I had the control in my hand, I would have known. Yes, of course, there are a lot of people who actually helped me. And this is the list, a lot of people and institutes from where I collect information. And I am now delayed, but still open to questions or criticism.
Thank you, Saurav. Any questions?
Absolutely fantastically researched program. I am so amazed that we just board the train and go, but there are so many details which I had absolutely no idea about. In fact, now that I have your presentation, I'm going to view it once again on my own. So
yeah, sure you do. But there's a lot of things that I had to omit because of the time factor. Yeah. Anyway, I've written up on that time with all the glitches.
Wonderful. Wonderful job. Yeah.
We can have a part 2 of the same thing where you can tell us about the things you omitted.
Yes, I will. I mean, it's a huge. I'm sure all the stations have huge histories, wherein Howrah still has a lot of information that is important, I think.
Maybe a couple of months from now, you can have part 2.
Sure. By then, I'll work out all the glitches and all the issues over it.
So one question is,
Yeah.
the connection between Howrah and Sealdah.
Yes.
When was it completed? I mean, for the for a train like New Jalpaiguri Shatabdi, it will meet the Eastern Railway line at some place near Bandel. So when was that connection
No,
completed?
New Jalpaiguri Shatabdi anyway starts from Howrah. So,
Correct, but it
but
should have correctly
18
started from Sealdah, right?
yeah, so 1887, 15th February is when the Jubilee Bridge was inaugurated between Bandel and Noihati. So that was the first connection with Calcutta, with the rest of the Calcutta, the then capital, with the rest of the country.
Hmm.
Of course, 1932 is when the Wellington and present-day Bali or Vivekananda Setu, the rail cum road bridge, which came into being.
Yes.
That connected Calcutta with the cord, Howrah Burdwan cord line. So that came into being in 1932, 29 December.
Hmm.
So these are the two connections. Of course, there was another connection which was proposed between Howrah and Shialda with underground, tracks way back in 1911. Again revised in 1923, but never came into being.
So,
The East-West Metro will connect it, but not through Indian Railway Network and on standard gauge, of course.
but there are no EMUs running between these two stations?
They're used to for a short period from 2003 to 2012, I think. But then because of poor timing and as a result, poor patronage, they cancelled all the services.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I know that Calcutta has got the best amount of transportation anywhere in the country. You have so many different types, but I never knew so many details. Thanks so much. Yeah.
Welcome.
Yeah.
What about the videos? Can we have some next RES talk? See all the videos. It must be great
Yes.
to watch these videos.
Yes. What I don't know how that can be done. I could probably, again, easier way done is that if I can't sort the problem out, in the next few hours or 1 or 2 days, I can probably send it again off to Apurvo, and then Apurvo can upload that.
Can I just check on my local machine if I can play it? If I can, extract it from that.
Okay.
Just give me a second. Yeah.
Can I come in for a second?
Yeah,
Please do.
Howrah, sir. Great
This
to
is Ramrao.
have you.
Yeah, I was telling Shauro that my connection with Howrah station is for a very long time. I was
Yes.
for 2 years, 2.5 years in ACS in Howrah division, senior DOS for 2 years, and DRM for 2 years. So this is a place which is particularly grown in it. I must compliment Shauro on a wonderful research, such a detailed information on various things, many things which I also don't know. And I congratulate him for that.
Thank you.
There's one thing I want to mention to you. It's a interesting trivia about the drawings. You mentioned that the drawings were found accidentally in the archives of Eastern Railway. Well, when I was DRM in Howrah division, we had to undertake some repairs in one corner of the Howrah station near the roof.
Okay.
Near the roof. And when we were trying to do that, my engineer came up and said that, sir, the contractor doesn't know how to do it because we are afraid that this old building will get damaged if he does something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
So then I told him that maybe there must be some drawings of this old station building available, because my knowledge of the British engineers was that they kept everything in great detail. Anything they did was always done in great detail. So there must be a detailed drawing somewhere of the building so you can take care of those things. And it took us a lot of searching. Of course, in the Howrah division, nothing was available. So then he sent somebody to chief engineer's drawing office. In the chief engineer drawing office, they initially said that they have no drawings of Howrah station. So, but we did not leave it at that. We started searching. I said to the engineer that send your man to search in the drawing office of the chief engineer. And lo and behold, in one abandoned drawer, they found all the drawings.
Wow.
And as Shauro says, there's not a single corner which is missing. The drawing takes care of everything in the station. And we were able to find the exact drawing that we were looking for and gave it to the contractor, and the work was done without any damage to anything. And the drawings were put back there as expected. But then obviously everybody forgot about it. And only 2003
Yeah.
we discovered they are still there.
Mhm.
So that is where it
Interesting.
is. So that's how it is. So the point is that we very often don't remember that the people who worked much before us also had some taken care of things. So the British were
Correct.
particularly good at that.
Correct.
Then about that booking office, Heritage Booking Office is talking about, that's a beautiful piece. In fact, we did some changes in Howrah station at that time. This booking office used to straddle the gates. It was across as you entered the station, you first came across the booking office, and there was a small entry on either side, and you had to go through that. So we
Right.
shifted that and put it on the side so that the gates could all be opened up. So when we were doing that, I told them specifically, we must not do any damage to this, because this is such a beautiful piece and it is made of Burma teak. You won't get it again. So we took care to preserve that and keep it on the side. And I'm glad to know that it is still there, it's still being used. It's such a great thing to know. I mean, this is how many years back? I did that in 1987.
Yeah.
So all these years it is still there. It's a great thing. The thing
35 years.
that Shauro has missed talking about, among other things, is that the concourse itself, inside the concourse itself, there were, apart from that footover bridge which he discovered, the layout of the concourse, I think, has undergone many changes. And right from the beginning, 1905, again, I think in 1935 or something, there was some big change made, because they opened some new waiting rooms and this and that, and the north wing and the south wing and so on. And
Yes.
then again, we did some changes in 1987. In fact, 1987 changes, etc. I have a chapter in my book on that, because the important thing to remember that is that Paul Theroux had come to Howrah station and took a photo and put it in his article in his National Geographic, and also in a video that he made for he made a film on his journey to India. So in that also, he has made very bad remarks about how Howrah station is. So we sort of took that as a challenge. And what happened in 87 and after, what you can see today, for example, that photograph you have of the clock in the concourse, that
Right.
shows the station so clear and nice. It was not like that at all. Even,
Mhm.
I mean, right from the time I was in ACS, from the time I joined the railway in 1957 to 1987, those 30 years, it was in awful condition. So a lot of changes were tried, but nothing really was as effective as it finally came in the remodeling that was undertaken in 1987. So there are many things like this. So I'm sure, and about the connection between Howrah and Shialda also, there's a lot of literature on that. I have also written about it,
Mhm.
because from the beginning they wanted to have a connection and they were not able to do it. And these connections which we are talking about at Bandel and at Vivekananda Bridge and all that, these are all away from Calcutta. So really speaking, train starting from Calcutta has to start necessarily from Howrah, because Shialda station doesn't have the infrastructure to do all the things. Already it has got so many trains running. So that is the problem.
Correct.
Anyway, thank you very much, Shauro, for a wonderful
Thank you.
presentation. And thank you all for listening.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.
Sure, the videos that I've just saw in your presentation, they're linked to location on your hard
I
disk.
know. I
So,
knew it,
yeah,
because
so
because
they have to
everything
be
is there.
embedded. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you could share it
So-
with me. Yeah,
Yeah, I can do it, and we can just do it later
we'll do
on.
something. We'll do something about it.
Yeah,
We'll make it
yeah.
uploaded on the web.
Share it on the group.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll put it
Yeah.
on Google Drive and then share it with people. Not a problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure,
Yeah.
we'll do that.
Sure. Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, I do remember the changes which were brought in during Mr. Ramarao's time. The concourse, what it was in our time, was so congested, and just by shifting the barriers outside, it became, I mean, the rush totally sort of became manageable. Otherwise, there is a tremendous rush. Even now there is rush, but the concourse changes I do remember very distinctly during Mr. Ramarao's time.
Thank you.
Saurav, there are a number of comments in the chat, all of them extremely complimentary. I mean,
But
the word extremely is also-
I am extremely apologetic actually.
extremely might-
In contrast, because of all the issues and everything.
Saurabh, how about doing a documentary or a presentation on the narrow gauge railway?
Actually, since 2015-16, I am researching as an independent researcher on the narrow gauge networks of Plainland Bengal, which includes, of course, the MacLeod routes and the Martins route. But because of my project and other involvements, that kind of gets a little bogged down at times, and I have to visit National Archives in Delhi, which is again away from Calcutta, which takes a lot of time. Calcutta State Archives, to be honest, is a poor sibling to National Archives, and no point going to State Archives. I mean, it just gives you more problem than solve.
Talking of the narrow gauge, Howrah, when I was senior DOS in Howrah division in 75-77, narrow gauge was very much there. The train used to run from Howrah Maidan, and we had a transshipment point
next to Howrah Goods.
Just behind Colvin Court.
Right.
Just behind Colvin Court, there was a transshipment point with where the narrow gauge and the broad gauge used to be
correct
positioned, and we had traffic coming and going at that time also.
Correct. Yes.
So if you are doing any research onto that, you better take care of that.
Yeah, sure. Sure.
Vinu sir, please share the recording with me. That's after this program.
Anyway, apologies to all the participants for the slight hiccups that we had. But in spite of the hiccups, the presentation was definitely worth it, worth the wait and worth going beyond the normal time.
Again, sorry from my side.
Not at all. I mean, such things do happen.
It was lovely, Saurabh.
Thank you. Thank you, Veera. It was lovely to see you after 1995.
Right, then let us call it a day. Thank you very much, Saurabh, for a wonderful talk.
Thank you.
I think all of us who have been in the railways and familiar with Howrah in one way or the other, I think we have also learned something new which we did not know. So thanks a lot, and we look forward to whenever we have the second session, hopefully with some more videos and the sort of immense treasure of knowledge that you have about Howrah and the railways in Calcutta area. So thank you once again, and I'd like to thank all the participants for patiently waiting and going through the entire session today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
So Vinu sir, please share the recording.
Yeah, definitely.
Apurva. Yeah,
definitely.
Thank you.
It takes a few hours to come.
No problem, sir. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you
Have a great day.
all. Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.